Good morning. This is my presentation for the Strategic Sport Leadership module as part of the MRES in Sport Leadership and Professional Development at UCLan University. This assignment is going to look at a presentation on critiquing the leadership frameworks when analysing an organisation of your choice. The organisation that I have chosen is the University of Bolton. I'm going to look at answering these two learning outcomes as part of this presentation. So about the University of Bolton, we are a post-1992 university. We gained university status in 2005, but we've been a higher education institution providing higher education for nearly over 190 years. We're a modern university offering a mix of standard and vocational learning. We have circa 11,000 students here at the university enrolled on a University of Bolton course, and we have a further number of students across partner institutions and colleges across the country. We're part of the University of Bolton group, including very recently Bolton FE College. And we have circa 1,000 members of staff, roughly an 800-200 split on academics to administration. The competition in the Northwest is vast. There's 10 established universities in the Northwest, including UCLan, Manchester, MMU, Salford, to name a few. There's also the further competition from the universities such as BPP, University College Football Burnley, and other private operators. In higher education, strategic leaders tend to be the senior management team, headed up by a vice-chancellor, principal, CEO type person. So strategic at the University of Bolton. The university is strategically trying to excel in a very tough market. It is difficult for us. Universities are facing a lot of pressure from the government through governmental funding cuts, as well as obviously things like Brexit will have a part to play, and we don't yet know how that's going to play out. UOB endeavours to be a teaching-intensive, research-informed institution, delivering excellent teaching underpinned by good research. We're not focusing on research here, we're looking at how we teach. Ultimately, we're looking to recruit students. We're looking to produce those students with the employability skills that will endeavour them to get a job post-graduation. Internal and external challenges. Competitors, staff and students, governmental changes, funding cuts both from a government side and also funding cuts and funding issues with our students directly, and then employability prospects. There's X amount of students graduating each year from X amount of universities, there's only so many jobs. And we have that as a challenge for us as well. So when I was looking at leadership, it was really easy, or difficult in some respects, to work out what leadership was. Dwight Eisenhower states that leadership is the art of getting someone to do something you want done because he wants to do it. Leadership's not about telling someone to do something. Leadership is about leading the team and getting someone to follow you. Leaders and followers. So I looked at one of my frameworks I looked into for strategic leadership was the trait theory of leadership. Basically, the trait theory of leadership is working out what characteristics a manager or a leader needs to have. So creativity, knowledge, confidence, emotional intelligence, to name a few. The trait theory was designed on the basis that people are born with leadership traits. It's not learned, you're born with it. Certain traits produce certain patterns of behaviour. The advantages of the trait theory is it's easy to understand. It's just be like this or do it this way. The leader can tell someone how to do a task. It therefore can be operated quite easily and allow for quick changes. It's not a over-complicated theory to implement or framework to implement. The disadvantages, it can identify a lot of traits. I've named 4 there, but there's hundreds of different traits that a leader can have, and sometimes those traits aren't working for the organisation, or it won't work in a certain place, so it only works on the traits that are there. There's also an issue that there's no single set of traits is right or is as merged as the right ones. Different traits can be useful in different things. Having knowledge of a company can be really useful when having the creativity to work in that industry may not be as useful for your organisation. And finally, it can be overwhelming to complete. It can take a bit of time. There's a questionnaire that can be undertaken to work out what your traits are, and it can flare up a few issues with that as well. The second framework that I looked at was the skills leadership theory. So this one, it's very similar to trait theory in that it looks to establish a set of attributes. The difference is that these are practical skills as opposed to the general qualities of a leader. It's not just about knowledge, it's not just about emotional intelligence, it's about things that the leader can take into the organisation as well. The leader needs the following. He needs technical skills. You need to be good at what you're doing to get people to follow you. You're not going to get the followers to listen to you if you're not doing something correctly at the start. You need people skills. They're the general things, persuasion, diplomacy, things like that. And you need conceptual skills, the ability to see the big picture, to put everything into one context and to understand and work out how strategically you're going to change that. The advantages to skills leadership theory, it acknowledges that everyone has the capabilities to become a leader. It's not about being born to be a leader. Everyone has the ability to become a leader. Individuals only then need to develop the skills of a good leader to be effective. They don't need to have a long list of attributes and traits. They just need to develop the skills that will work for them in their organisation. Make selecting a leader easier. An inventory of skills can be undertaken to establish a potential leader's skills in certain areas. You can then work out exactly how you're going to do that through recruitment and selection. Disadvantages, it is very similar to trait theory. The development of many of the skills is influenced by personal traits. It's not so much about how you understand the organisation or how you understand business. It's about how you are as a person, how knowledgeable you are, how diplomatic you are, how much persuasion can you offer into an organisation. People who are more extroverted are more aligned to this theory. So if you're an introvert, this theory is going to be very difficult to implement for you personally. Human skills are easier to develop for extroverted people. Someone that's willing to get out there and do it will always find it easier through skills leadership theory, will always understand trait theory, and will be able to use those skills in such a way. And the last disadvantage for me, it only focuses on identifying certain skills, but not on explaining why these skills are important for a leader. So the next model I looked at was the Hersey-Blanchard situational leadership theory, circa 1970. So this looked at leaders cannot be reliant on one leadership style. Leaders must be flexible in their approach. This will enable the leader to get the best from their team. They need to understand that not one size fits all. No single leadership style is best. It may have the same goal, but may need very different leaders to develop that. So the example I have is in a boys football team, you may need a leader that's a disciplinarian, maybe someone that holds the lads to rights, when actually a girls football coach may be more of a friend, maybe more of a situational leader in their own right there. And I think that there may be that mothering, parenting feel to it. The advantage of the Hersey-Blanchard situational leadership theory, it is simple to follow, simple to implement. Maturity and competence are often overlooked in these leadership theories and leadership models, and it's really important that actually these traits are really important in organisations, and this model identifies those. It gives the leader an idea of what the best style is. to use with certain staff groups, certain areas. Disadvantages: have been argued that this theory can only really be implemented successfully with senior managers. In a university, the vice chancellor, the senior management team, it doesn't tend to get the best results from middle managers and department leads. It can also be timely and complex to undertake with large teams. So in a university, this can become very difficult because of the volume of staff. So we then look on to, like I said, there's two different scenarios in this model. We look at the four leadership styles grid. So let's open up. So we've got the four leadership styles there. So it's two pillars: leadership style and development of maturity in your team. So understanding that a more mature team may not have the experience, but may be able to gain that experience quicker than a new team as such. This model allows for the leader to determine where the team are and to develop a leadership style based on that evidence. Utilising this grid method allows the leader to map where his or her leadership style needs to be. So for an example, in S1, the directing or selling stage, the team may not have much knowledge. They may need a lot of intervention from the leader, and they will need the skills and expertise to become proficient in that area. When in fact, when you go to the S2, the selling stage or the coaching stage, they have a bit more knowledge. It's still an autocratic style, but slightly less. The leader will need to have, need to be able to direct the team to complete the task. The leader can start to sell their message and to develop the team in their way. We move on to S3, the supporting or the participating stage. The leader can adjust to develop a more democratic style, can focus more on a relationship building than task direction. And in their own way, they can develop their own goals in that. And then S4, the delegating stage, the leader can step back. The leader can then allow the team or the individual to lead on that. They can delegate the task to that person and just get updates on a regular basis from that team or that person. I then looked at Adair's 7 functions of leadership. Quite simply can be applied to all situations, whole organisations, within a small team, an individual. It's quite versatile. The 7 generic functions of strategic leadership: provided direction for the organisation, that's the leader's job in there. Strategy and policy writing, physically making it happen. It comes down to the leader and the senior team to do that. Organise and reorganise. We have to understand that there are lots of conflicting issues within this. Release the corporate spirit. Relate the organisation to others and to whole society, so benchmark to other organisations, and then develop tomorrow's leaders through this. Then there's the 3 approaches to leadership. Adair identified that there are 3 main approaches to leadership. You've got the qualities approach. The leader should possess the qualities of both the workers and the leaders. For an example, resilience, grit, determination. The situational approach: the leader should know the situation, should be knowledgeable of that organisation they lead in. And then the third one, the functional approach. This role, the leader can be defined by the 3 circles model, which we'll come on to in a minute. Attending as appropriate to the tasks, teams and individuals at hand. So the 3 circle model, the question we have to understand is, does this model cover all functions of strategic leadership? And through this we'll go over this. So the 3 circle model is very good. It identifies that the leader, to be a leader, you need to ensure that you get the basics right first. You need to ensure that you get the task right, the team right, and the individual right through that. Because all of those give you that holy grail in the middle of peak performance. The model states that leaders must balance the actions they take across the 3 areas. By doing this, they can ensure peak performance, that middle area. It is really important to remember that the areas are interdependent. If a leader focuses too much on one area, for an example, the task, then the other areas will potentially fail and will struggle. It's not to be said that at times throughout the leadership or task you're going on with, that one area is going to take more precedence. So an example could be that you've got a deadline looming, the task is going to take precedence over the other two. And we understand that, and it's working around that. So it's important to focus then on the task in hand. Not limit yourself to not focus on the other two, but give more time to the task. You have to continue all three at the same time. If the team are new to a situational task, the leader can implement Tuckman's forming, storming, norming and performing model, circa 1965, to help aid the development of the team performance. This can then allow the team to develop further. Or if an individual is new to the task, then some coaching development may be useful, maybe some mentoring, and then the correct skills can be built from that. The three areas will clash at times. As the leader, it is our task to ensure that the needs of the organisation are met. For example, if the issues lie between the individual and the team, then for the sake of the organisation and for the sake of the task in hand, you'd be better suited putting your time and effort into developing the team than developing that individual. Okay. Conclusions. Just go back on that one, apologies. So, it's clear that strategic leadership is a tricky beast. Some ideas work and some don't. Here at the University of Bolton, we're best suited to the trait theory, and to a certain extent situational leadership theory from a very senior point of view, but I would say we're more suited to the trait theory in this. We have leaders at all levels. All these leaders have different tasks, ultimately to one aim, of course, but we can implement the trait theory in that. That being said, there are times when the other 10 leadership theories are needed to get the job done. You know, we could look at great man theory, we could look at any of the other theories that are in there to actually go, actually this may be more useful to us on the day. It can also be argued that situational leadership is only applicable to senior managers, as I mentioned before, with significant control. So in University of Bolton's case, the Vice-Chancellor. This is typical in the education settings. The Vice-Chancellor or the head teacher have an aim or a goal that they want to get through, and it's their leadership that gets that done. Potentially utilising different models can enable the team or organisation to develop. Tuckman's forming, storming, norming, performing model, and that of the four leadership grid as well, became very useful in that. And I do feel strategic leadership can be identified that there is no one area that's right or wrong, really, and I think that's key to understand. Here's just a few of the references that I used. Obviously Tuckman's in there a few times, I've used Adair. And personally for me, I do feel that the idea of the learning outcomes and understanding the evaluation of that has been really useful in this, and I'd be more than happy to take any questions. Thank you.